Let's get started. Okay, week one, sharing your story. Welcome to Sunday service. So I want you to raise your hand and share. What is stopping you from sharing stories on social media? Let's start with Lyra.
It's hard to be the first one. Overthinking. I am talkative and I like to talk to my friends, but online I feel like, I think I said this before in another Sunday service, but I'm officially on quarter 3 with you guys now. So I want to get some direction around sharing my story, sharing to inspire the women I work with and women in the world around loving their body and loving themselves and not sounding like a book. Like I want to sound like I'm talking to my friend when I'm online. And it's just, I don't feel like I see an example of what it looks like. And when I do, like when I see you, it's like, oh, but that's like, he's talented. He knows how to do it. I don't think it's a skill you learn. It's something that you just like surrender and you let it happen and it's perfect and it just clicks. I feel like I am not that person. And so getting out of that imposter syndrome, overthinking.
I feel the same way as you. I'm like, I feel like I have nothing to say. I feel like, like I look at all these like other influencers or whatever. I'm like, they're so eloquent. I think just being yourself, I think,
so like
other people.
No fucks given like I did last time.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm going to offend. I know a lot of people. Like, I feel like if I talk the way I want to talk, I'm going to offend some friends. I'm like,
block them.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm good with that. Thank you for that advice. All right, because I get to shine. So, first, if you don't like what I'm gonna say.
Thanks, Lyra.
Some of the things that stop me or make me hesitate is that what I have to share is no big deal and like boring and also too intense. Because some of the things that I'm going to be doing for my business are surrounding people taking accountability for their own actions. And like, I can get super intense about that stuff because I kind of get like do or die. And like, I want to be true to who I am. And that's who I am. But then I'm like, oh wait, but then I'm going to push people off.
I guess the kind of people that you're going to push off was never your people to begin with. How many of you guys feel that way? Where I don't know if I have anything special to say.
Oh yeah. And then the other thing, just real quick is like that I feel like the things that I know, everybody already knows.
It's so relatable. That's what I say every day. Like every time I post something, I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone knows this.
Yes.
But I post it anyway.
Yes.
So very relatable. The first two ladies, I completely, underlined with what you said. And also what I wanted to add to that is the part of, that vulnerability, like the fear of being vulnerable, exposing myself with all of my, little secrets that feels like once I do that, then I'm running myself empty and everybody can have a judgment on me based on what I say. Now, for me, that's a fear of like, am I building my brand on this or am I hurting my brand by being like so vulnerable?
Thank you for sharing, Beata.
First of all, I was like, gonna go first because we already talked about this for 2 hours in your podcast, and I was like, I shouldn't talk about it again, but you know what, I will. It was for me being judged by the people I know, because probably I haven't told them my view of this story or whatever I'm going through ever. I keep keeping it to myself. So to come out and like sharing it and them seeing it, and I was scared of them messaging me, and I don't want to talk to them about it. So we agreed on blocking them, and that's what I did. And then I uploaded my first YouTube podcast. And even when I shared the podcast with you, it was hidden from everyone I know. So that helped me. But another thing I've noticed after we talked is that all I was thinking about is my talking is not good enough for a podcast or on videos. The way I talk, the way I look, etc., etc., etc. Like, I don't want this. I was cringing all the time, especially that you have to go and edit for social media. You can't post everything. And eventually what I did was just posting as it is. But right now, I want to share it.
How do you feel now?
I feel good, proud of myself for posting it on YouTube, but also there's the part that I only told few people that I have this YouTube channel, and I wanted to post it in the community since yesterday, and I haven't made the post. I think it's baby steps. Even after you do what you want to do, it's going to take time to.
The first step is always going to be the hardest.
Yeah, and then to keep doing it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still scared.
I'm proud of you though. I'm glad you
Thank you,
did it.
Sab.
Thank you, Sabrine.
For me, it's I don't have my brand yet, but the reason I don't usually post even stuff from my personal life, like rarely, because I think I like being kind of a private person, and also I fear the judgment of close friends and people. I guess those would be the main reasons, and also some other reasons that the other members talked about. Like I feel like everything I know, it's already out there, and I wouldn't post anything valuable to anyone. So
It's a
yeah.
lot of like similar. I see a lot of similar pattern in the
Yeah.
fears.
Also because of, I don't know, maybe social anxiety or something, it's really hard for me even to be here and with my camera turned on.
So yeah, I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, like, you took that first step of sharing here, and that's already like a lot. How do you feel, by the way, like raising your hand and sharing?
A bit nervous, but I don't know, after you unmuted me, I think it was pretty okay. Maybe the fact that I've been in a big group before helped a lot. I mean, a lot.
I would say it took me a while to really get into the night owl group. I've been a member for a bit, but I don't know what just happened. You know, sometimes you're just trying to get used to a new pattern, and it's difficult. The initial stage is difficult. For months, I didn't do any homework. I didn't understand the system. I didn't understand what was going on, but I just kept attending. I knew that one day it was going to break. I didn't know when it was going to break, but I just knew that, okay, the more I attend, the more I would eventually figure it out, and it began to happen. And those little steps even influenced every other thing I was doing, and trying to like settle in a new location, start a business and all. And that even led to, I just want to just drop this then out. Even led to, you know, trying to get my first clients, you know, like, okay, I have this, because I have branding and marketing background. Okay, I can help you build the sales funnel, and I can help you with your copy, and I can help you with this. And it was like the clients were not getting it. Like I was willing to even put my money down, not collect any, just to prove to them that I really noticed it. And they were not just getting it. It was like, okay, would it work? There was so much doubt. And until I remember you saying something, and I spoke to Azuka, and Azuka reminded me of the victim and villain thing. I said, are you feeling like the victim, or are you the villain in this case? Are you putting so much obstacles in the way that they're not making a decision? So I said, okay, you know what, maybe I need to switch it. So I wrote a message. I said, okay, you know what, this is what I will do. I'll host the website and I'll share with you. I'll pay for the domain, I'll pay for the hosting, and I'll share with you. And if that's okay. Immediately I said that, I got a yes. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That's what I want. I'm like, okay. So what have I been doing since? Like, why did it take so long for you to just decide that? So I feel from looking back now, I think try not to be too technical, try not to be too highfalutin, speaking so much at the top of the person's head that the person, the client or the audience don't understand. But breaking it the very simple way and taking like the responsibility and taking the risk away of saying, you know what, don't worry about it. I will explain this. I'll break it. Even willing to pay to host it just to prove to you that this thing actually works. And since then, I think I've been getting some really good feedback in terms of, from a content point of view, breaking it down the way, and also from relationship with clients and potential clients in building their funnels and their marketing.
Awesome. Okay, let's move on. Maya Angelou said, there's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. You know, I go to these workshop seminars and these retreats, and you know, they do those exercises. Okay, now turn to your partner and do this. I'm like, oh no, fuck, I don't want to do that, right? Like, I hate sharing. I hate all of those exercises, right? So I went to this yoga retreat, and for the first few days, I didn't share at all. But the facilitator kept saying like, oh, you know, like he kept encouraging everyone who hasn't shared before to share, like just kind of encouraging. And finally, I don't know what happened, but something like triggered me to want to like, fuck it, let's do it, right? So I went up and I share a story, and two things happened. Like, number one, after I shared, like so many people came up to me and said, oh, son, thank you so much for sharing the story. It's so relatable, all of that stuff. But more importantly, I think something happened within me. Like, sharing helped me more than anyone else. Something happened within me where it gave me more confidence. It felt like, just like Maya Angelou said, it felt like there was like a burden in here that I happened to release or something like that. So I just want to tell you guys that there's power in sharing. So what we're going to do over the next 11 weeks isn't just like you sitting at home in your room and just writing stories. A lot of it is going to be about you sharing the story with others. And that that is kind of going to be a big part of the exercise over the next 11 weeks. I want to go over a couple of our night out manifesto that I think is going to be important, especially for like this week. So this week, I want to talk all about sharing your story, not just like writing the good story or storytelling or something like that, but sharing it, right? And one of the best ways to give is by sharing your story. By sharing your story, you're actually giving. Next thing I want to say is be a beginner. I am so convicted in everything I say. But as you guys know, I always say, hey, I'm not an expert. Don't listen to me. I might be wrong about this. Whenever I go into a room, sales meeting, or whatever, I go in with the mentality of like, I know nothing. I'm just talking about everything based on my experience, what I believe. What I believe can be completely wrong. Maybe it's like 100% wrong, right? So when you come from the mentality of like, I'm a nobody, I'm a beginner, I'm here to learn, in that place is where you're going to gain, in that humility is where you're going to gain the most confidence. Okay, now raise your hand. I want you to tell a story about a time when something you believe to be true turned out to be false.
I think back to when my wife and I got married, and we were, we were fairly young when we got married, probably compared to today. And we first get married and we're like, okay, we're not ready for kids. We're gonna just enjoy each other and get to know each other and build a relationship. So we waited, quite a while. I think about 5 years, 4 to 5 years before we finally, both looked at each other and said, yeah, I think we're ready to start having kids. So you see Hollywood films, and in the films, they get into a relationship, they're pregnant, they have a baby, they're already, the kid's 3 years old, and it's only been about 4 minutes in the film, right? And so you get this idea that having children is really, really easy, and getting pregnant is really, really easy. And so you think, okay, it's time, here we go, we're going to get after it, and we're going to try to have kids, and 3 years goes by of doctor visits, spending time doing blood work, going through process of both of us getting tested, what's the issue, trying to determine what's causing the problem. You start to hear things about how difficult it could be, and then you realize, wow, this is much more difficult than we thought it would be, right? So 3 years of basically going through that entire process of trying to have get pregnant, trying to start a family, only to realize how difficult it can be. And at the time when we come to our last basically moments where we're about to say, well, okay, I guess, maybe being parents isn't something that, or being biological parent is not something in the cards for our family. And it becomes very, very difficult to have that conversation with your partner, right? And then at the moment when we finally decided, okay, we need to start looking at adoption, and we need to start looking at adoption agencies, and how do we go about doing this? And then right then is when you get the pregnancy test that comes through, right? And so I would say that you get this idea that getting pregnant is so easy, and everybody's able to do it except us, and you realize that's not the case. And so going through that experience of how difficult it was for us to have a child, and for us to get pregnant, it creates a lot of empathy for people that can't have kids, for people who want kids more than anything, but can't experience that and have those problems or those issues. And even I'm a male here, so I'm going to be very, very careful about what I say. But even learning stories of people who have miscarriages, and you start to learn that everyone has their own struggles, and everyone has their own fears and their own problems that they're going through, and it creates so much empathy and understanding that life is hard for everyone, and we all have our issues, and not just taking things at face value, but really trying to understand people.
My experience is similar, Sam, to yours. So I had no wish to teach, and I always thought you don't earn a lot of money anyway. And then some guy asked me to help him with his English, and I really did my best to explain that was not what I was made to do, really. I had sort of other skills, I thought. And I really didn't know how to say no at the time. So the easiest way for me was to actually give him a price, thinking that would make it easy for him to run away, and he actually accepted. And I was so shocked, and in a way, made me feel good. And in fact, he came into my home then, and I felt so bad, him paying so much money for me, that I gave him double the hours. So he came for an hour twice a week. And I felt so bad taking money from him that I just said, just stay. And we talked and talked and talked. And this really was the beginning of my calling. I didn't want to do it. And that was 22 years or 23 years ago. And really, I'm so thankful because that's what I do today, right? And that.
Oh, that's amazing. So relatable too. Like me, I was exactly the same. I felt so guilty. So I felt like I had to give more.
Exactly. You just sort of, and I don't know if he knew that. I just sort of made another cup of tea and sort of said, oh, we can stay because we were talking, And in fact, he asked me later to go to meet the personnel manager of the company that he just started working for. And that sort of started a business.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Crazy, really.
So my story actually just happened. So I'm working in a company and we have 5 brands. Well, 4 brands to manage, and one of the 5th brand needs to be redesigned. And they were going to hire another designer, or more like a design agency from Helsinki, very well renowned and everything, and so on. So I just heard it, and I heard the rumors about what was happening and so on, and I decided to design it, to make a proposal of the redesign of the brand myself. But I didn't have the brief, I didn't have anything, just what I thought that the brand needed. And I was very stressed. I worked my heart and my ass for it for a couple of weeks. And then this Friday, I sent the proposal to the owner, whom she has a very clear view in her mind what she wants for the brand, but she doesn't know how to express it. So it's really hard. I sent it and I was like, yeah, okay, so I'm going to send it. No problem there. I'm just going to try to distract myself with something else and not cheat my pants. Like 20 minutes later, she calls me and she said, you nailed it. Both proposals are absolutely stunning. You knew nothing about this and you portrayed everything that I wanted into this new rebranding. And the agency in Helsinki sent me 5 proposals and I had to turn them back because they were pure garbage. I literally cried when I finished that phone call. I was crying. I was like, I knew that I could design, but I never thought that I was that good. Like I didn't deserve it. I just sent it because I wanted to send something and not be left out. So yeah.
So it was a surprise for you, yeah.
Yeah, I was in shock.
I want everyone to tell a story about a time, exactly what we just did. Tell a story about a time when something you believed to be true turned out to be false. And it doesn't have to be related to your work, or it can be something simple. Like, like when I was young, my mom used to always cut my hair. And one time, like my friend was getting a haircut and she just told me she gave me like $10 to go with him to get a haircut. And when I did, like it was the first time like I went to a barber and like they gave me a really short haircut, which I really liked actually. So I'm coming home thinking like, oh, my mom's gonna love it. And then when I came home, my mom's like, what the fuck did they do? Like, and she was like so upset at the haircut. So that was kind of like shocking for me. Whatever it is, just think of one time that's memorable for you and tell a story about that time. Share this story in your small group or a big group space in circle 2 days before your meeting, anytime before 2 days before your meeting. And then after you share it, before the meeting, go read other group members' stories and give feedback by leaving a comment. And what I want you to do is I want you to read the story and think about what do you think was the lesson of that story, the story that you just read. And then finally, I want you to share in your group what we talked about today. What is the thing that's stopping you from sharing your stories on social media or sharing publicly? When I first started on Instagram, I've tried to build social media before, but it never worked. But this time, like when I actually got on Instagram, what happened was I became kind of part of this community of other designers and other marketers. And there was like about 10, 15 people that I follow that we were constantly talking to. We were commenting on each other's posts, we were DMing each other, and we kind of became friends. This small group of people on Instagram. And I think if it wasn't for them, I don't think I would be where I am today on Instagram. First of all, it got me excited because I knew that when I was posting, there's somebody in this community that's watching it, reading it. They're giving me feedback. And being part of that small little kind of, unofficial community really helped me get me started on Instagram. So I want to bring a lot of that to this community. Like the fact that you're in this community, you kind of already have that right off the bat, right? So every week I'm going to ask for a request. So this is not an assignment. This is not an exercise. I want you to do this for me. But more importantly, I want you to do it for you. Every week, I'm going to give you one request that I want you to try. Share your story on social media using the hashtag Night Owl Nation. I want you guys to all follow hashtag Night Owl Nation and like and comment on at least 10 of those stories this week. And I also want you to introduce yourself to one of those people from Night Owl Nation hashtag on DM, so you can start building kind of your little circle of community of members. But I want to leave you with like a final word. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again. Because there is no effort without error or shortcoming. But who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows, in the end, the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who knew neither victory nor defeat. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. As I always say, no matter how this week goes, just come back next week. Every Sunday, just come back. We'll ground ourselves and we'll kind of set up for this week. I'll see you all next week. Cheers. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, Sam.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye. 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 Bye.
Thank you all.